Boys, welcome back to another Brokoski's YouTube video. In this video, we got our top 24 wide receivers and we're putting them in tiers.
At number 1, we got Justin Jefferson. Pretty easy choice. He was the number 1 receiver last year, averaged over 20 fantasy points per game. Situation is basically the same. Thielen's gone, Jordan Addison in. He still should be the number 1 receiver in every single fantasy draft.
These next three guys can be clumped together, but at our wide receiver 2, we have Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill last year with Tua was on pace to break the receiving yards record. He was going absolutely crazy, then Tua got hurt. Reek still got good targets, still got good points, but did fall off a little bit. If Tua can stay healthy, expect Tyreek to be an elite level wide receiver.
At wide receiver number 3, my wide receiver 2, again, these are our combined rankings, is Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp, before he was injured last year, was averaging the most points for any wide receiver. He has been insane when he's on the field the past 2 seasons. Arguably one of the best receivers in the league. Again, best receiver for fantasy when healthy. So we have him at number 3 for our combined list.
And at number 4, we got Jamar Chase. These guys can all be jumbled together. They're all elite options. This Bengals offense, you know it's going to be elite. Joe Burrow's going to find his guy Jamar Chase. You obviously have T. Higgins taking some, but Jamar Chase, he's going to get his passes, he's going to get his targets, going to get the touchdowns. He's going to have a great season.
Drop him down a tier. First player in the next tier, Stefan Diggs. Stefan Diggs has been amazing ever since they got Josh Allen, or they traded for Diggs. Josh Allen has improved significantly. Diggs has been an absolute monster for fantasy football. Again, this receiving core is not that great besides Diggs. If they sign Hopkins, which is rumored to happen, might move down a little bit. But again, for right now, Diggs is still an elite option.
At number 6, I think this guy slept on a little bit. We got Davante Adams. Davante last season was an absolute stud with Derek Carr. They did QB downgrade. Jimmy Garoppolo is worse than Derek Carr in our opinion. He's going to throw a bit less yards, a bit less touchdowns. Josh Jacobs in this offense should get a lot of touchdowns, but Davante Adams, we've seen. With Aaron Rodgers, obviously an elite QB, but he was an amazing wide receiver. Last year, switch QBs was still an amazing wide receiver. Yes, it's another QB switch, but we still expect Davante to be great.
Next up at wide receiver 7, we got CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb was great last year. Maybe not as good as we were hoping. We had some pretty lofty expectations, but again, still great nonetheless. While we're not the biggest Dak fans, he's still solid enough that CeeDee has tons of upside.
And at wide receiver 8, last guy in this tier is A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown last year, going into the season, we were questioning, can Jalen Hurts support 2 good wide receivers? And yes, he can. A.J. Brown was elite last year. Devontae Smith was great last year. The Eagles offense is super explosive. A.J. Brown's going to get his targets, has good touchdown upside. He's going to be great.
Dropping down a tier at wide receiver 9, we got Amon-Ra St. Brown. If you're playing in a non-PPR or a half-point PPR, he drops down, but in a full-point PPR league, he is insane. Out of the slot for the Detroit Lions, gets absolutely force-fed targets. Again, in a PPR league, he is insane.
And at wide receiver 10, this guy has all the upside in the world. It's Garrett Wilson. Aaron Rodgers is coming to town. Garrett Wilson going into the second year. A lot of times second-year wide receivers explode. And last season, Garrett Wilson was already amazing. Gets a massive QB upgrade. Is the clear wide receiver 1 in this offense. He truly has top 3 wide receiver upside. He is going to be great this year.
And last player in this tier, first, wide receiver 2 of the video, we got Jaylen Waddle. Tyreek Hill obviously is the wide receiver 1 for the Dolphins, but number 2, Jaylen Waddle is still great for fantasy football, showed huge upside. There was also some bust weeks. I think he had 1 week he had 0 points. His success kind of depends on if Tua is healthy. We're expecting Tua to be back and fully healthy. Hopefully, no further complications with the concussions. But again, if Tua is healthy, this offense is going to be amazing. Jaylen Waddle is going to be great for fantasy.
And at wide receiver 12, our last wide receiver 1, we got T. Higgins. Last year did deal with some injuries, but when he was healthy, averaging around 15 points per game. He's a super solid low-end wide receiver 1, high-end wide receiver 2. He doesn't have the biggest upside, but he also has a super safe floor, just a super safe wide receiver.
Next up, Chris Olave. Feels kind of weird ranking him this high, but situation and everything, it seems like he deserves it. He was great last year in a not really good offense. It was Andy Dalton and Jameis Winston as quarterback. While Derek Carr is not Patrick Mahomes, he is still an upgrade. And Michael Thomas, the situation is kind of weird. If Michael Thomas does play and is fully healthy, he's not going to have as high of an upside, but with Michael Thomas's injury history, if he does go down again, Olave is going to be the clear wide receiver 1. Derek Carr has supported wide receiver 1s in the past, like Adams last year. Renfro 2 years ago was insane. Again, Chris Olave has tons of upside.
Dropping down a tier, we got Calvin Ridley. Ridley has so much upside playing in an elite Jacksonville Jaguars offense. Trevor Lawrence was great last year, could take even a bigger step this year to be an elite QB. And we saw Ridley's upside like 2 or 3 years ago. What was he, like the wide receiver 4? He was somewhere top 5 wide receivers, absolutely amazing. The year after kind of disappointed, then was obviously suspended last year. If Ridley can get back to being that elite wide receiver in an elite offense with Trevor Lawrence, he has all the upside.
Next up, a player I absolutely absolutely love Jerry Jeudy. I was super high on him last year. Kind of burned me a little bit. Wasn't really his fault though. Got injured. Nathaniel Hackett was a horrible coach. Russell Wilson was horrible at quarterback. The offense was just awful in general. But to end the season, he was awesome. I want to say he was a top 10 receiver in points per game to end the season. And I love him this year. Massive head coach upgrade with Sean Payton. Again, these are combined rankings. I had him even higher than this. Ethan had him a little bit lower, but I love Jerry Jeudy.
And next up in this D tier, we got Devontae Smith. Devontae Smith last year started off the season a little bit poor because they're just feeding A.J. Brown, but at the end of the year, he caught his stride. He was getting more targets than A.J. Brown. In the playoffs, I think he was putting up more points. Obviously, playoffs doesn't matter too much, but Devontae Smith was amazing last year. Obviously, A.J. Brown is still better, but this is a super concentrated offense. Almost all the targets are going to either A.J. Brown, Dallas Goedert, or Devontae Smith. They're all great options. Devontae Smith should be great this year.
Last player in this tier, we got Deebo Samuel. Kind of disappointed last year. Actually, definitely disappointed last year compared to 2 years ago where he was insane. We think he was a little bit overrated going into fantasy drafts last year, but I think this year you could argue he's a little bit underrated. It seems like people are fading him a little bit too hard. Again, there are so many stars, so many mouths to feed in this offense, but again, he just has such high week-to-week upside that he can just win you a week depending on his performance.
And dropping a tier, we have Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper with Jacoby Brissett last year was quite good. Then Deshaun Watson came in, and he was maybe playing like the worst quarterback in the NFL. Watson was horrible last year. Obviously, he's been out of football for a couple years. We expect him to take a jump this year, maybe look a little bit more like that old Houston Texans elite Deshaun Watson. If he can be that guy, Amari Cooper is the clear wide receiver one in this offense. He's going to get targets. He sometimes does disappear on away games, but at home, he's an amazing player. Should be great for fantasy.
And next up, a player that's pretty risky, but we got Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen, when healthy in PPR leagues, is awesome. Gets absolutely force-fed by Justin Herbert, but he's just been so injury-prone recently, and he's getting up there in age. He's over 30 years old now, had a hamstring that bothered him last year, which is concerning, but if he can stay healthy, he has amazing upside with Justin Herbert.
Next up in this tier, we got Christian Watson. Christian Watson last year showed elite upside with Aaron Rodgers. He had like a 4-game stretch averaging like easily over 20 points per game. He was balling out, but the targets over the whole season just wasn't there. He has elite upside, but also obviously Rodgers is out of town. You have Jordan Love in this offense. And also Christian Watson is a major injury concern last year. It feels like he was dealing with some injury every single week. Watson, super high upside, but also does have a low floor.
And last player in this tier, the wide receiver 2, I mean, you could argue who's the wide receiver 1, but for fantasy, we'd have Keenan Allen. But Mike Williams is next up. Mike Williams is an absolute monster, jump ball beast, deep ball threat. Again, in PPR leagues, we'd take Keenan Allen, but in half-point PPR or standard leagues, we would take Mike Williams.
And first player in this last tier, we got DJ Moore. It kind of seems like he could be the A.J. Brown of this year. Going to a new offense, going into an offense that was rushed first, but then exploded into a good passing offense with Hurts. But we just don't really see that too much with Justin Fields. Fields, for sure, is great for fantasy, for sure is great for rushing, but for passing, it would be surprising for him to take that Jalen Hurts leap and actually throw that many receiving yards. You also do have Mooney in this offense, do have Claypool, do have Kmet. Not elite options, but enough to just take targets. DJ Moore has all the upside, though.
And at wide receiver 23, we got DK Metcalf, a player I'm a lot lower on. Being honest, I don't even think I would have him top 24, but again, these are combined rankings. The main reason is there are so many mouths to feed. Last year in points per game, Tyler Lockett was actually better than DK Metcalf in points per game. They drafted JSN in the first round. Kenneth Walker obviously is a great running back, and they drafted Zach Charbonnet, who should take some targets in the second round at running back. So they have 2 good running backs and 3 good wide receivers, including DK. This is probably a lot lower than you're going to see him on most lists, but again, I just don't love the upside for DK this year.
And last player on this video, it's super hard to rank. We got Hopkins. Obviously, just got released by the Cardinals. There's so many different possibilities where he could go. Could go to the Browns. That's pretty good. Could go for the Bills. That's decent. Chiefs would be great. Ravens would be horrible. Again, so many different options. It's impossible to really give an analysis on Hopkins right now, so we'll just put him at 24.
And guys, thank you so much for watching the video. If you could hit the like and the subscribe, that would be a great help to us. We really appreciate it. Thanks again for watching. See you guys next time.